I want to talk about the most unfair problem in your life. You know that powerful resistance you feel every time you try to do the thing that's good for you. That feeling isn't a flaw. And it doesn't stand a chance against one counterintuitive strategy. Hey everyone, let's just get straight to the point, right? I want to talk about probably the most annoying, insidious, and frankly unfair problem in the world of getting things done. It's this simple paradox. I guarantee you know exactly what you need to do to dramatically move your life forward in a substantial way. It's not a secret formula you have to hunt down on the internet. You already know. You have absolute clarity on the single most important task facing you right now. There's probably one specific thing. That paper, that financial modeling, that uncomfortable phone call, or that workout. That you've been avoiding like the plague. You know it's the thing that will generate the most success, the most freedom, and the most confidence in your life. But the problem isn't that you don't know what that thing is. The problem is that, for the life of you just can't bring yourself to do it. Isn't that the common theme every single day? It's this weird internal friction that we all face. You sit down at your desk, you pull up the document, you open the workbook, and then you feel a feeling. And it's not just a passing thought. It's an undeniable, physical urge to recoil. It's the moment you decide that checking the weather report, organizing your sock drawer, or doom scrolling through social media sounds infinitely better than tackling the task at hand. This feeling, this internal friction, this deep, palpable resistance, is the invisible wall. And it almost seems unfair how potent this feeling is. It's like a defensive mechanism designed specifically to stop you from doing things that are genuinely good for you. Think about it. When do you feel the most resistance? Is it when you're deciding to binge watch a new series on a Friday night? Absolutely not. That's smooth sailing. The friction only kicks in when you think about writing that challenging essay, launching that side hustle, or doing your taxes. It seems like life is set up to punish high-value action. Why does the difficult, important stuff feel so agonizingly boring or overwhelming? Wouldn't it be better if we just actually enjoyed doing difficult things? Wouldn't it be better if you woke up with the raw, pure motivation to be creative, or to write that proposal, or to even clean your kitchen? You probably want nothing more than to be someone who genuinely enjoys and looks forward to doing the things that empower them. The deep work, the challenging stuff that creates long-term success. We try to use willpower, right? We think if we just want it badly enough, the resistance will vanish. We try all the little tips and tricks that float around in the self-improvement sphere. Oh, just set a timer for 5 minutes and try really hard, or think more positive thoughts about your work. And these little strategies, they're kind of throwaway. They might work here or there, a momentary band-aid, but they get old really quick. They don't address the fundamental reason that wall is there in the first place. Why? Because they ignore a fundamental fact about how our brains operate. They ignore the truth that this feeling of resistance isn't necessarily a character flaw. It's a direct, almost physiological response to something the brain perceives as boring relative to the other options available. That's the key. That's where the common advice fails. We try to add a little sparkle to the work, hoping that 5 minutes of positive thinking will somehow make filing receipts more entertaining than a global social network that delivers dopamine hits every 30 seconds. Spoiler alert, it won't. The disparity is just too great. If we keep ignoring this basic fact, that your resistance is fundamentally about relative entertainment value, we'll keep spinning our wheels. We'll keep fighting a battle of willpower that we're simply not designed to win against the constant barrage of high-stimulation distractions. You're trying to use a pocket knife to cut down an entire forest. It's never going to work. There has to be a nuclear option, a strategy so powerful that it bypasses willpower entirely, rendering the feeling of resistance inert. And there is one. It's not sexy, it's not flattering, and we often don't want to believe it's the answer. But it works every single time. It turns that whole painful resistance problem on its head by changing the environment, not trying to change the feeling. What if, instead of fighting the feeling, we could make it disappear by changing the playing field? That's what we need to get into next. Because this strategy is what finally lets you bulldoze right through that invisible wall. Okay, so you need that nuclear option, right? The one strategy that works every single time? The one that cuts through the resistance like it's butter? It's not very flattering. It's not very sexy. It's the answer we genuinely don't want to believe because it's so simple, it feels like a trick. The solution, ironically, is boredom. Seriously. That's it. It's so simple, it feels anticlimactic. And I feel like there is so much self-improvement advice out there that completely ignores this fundamental. Not even tactic. It's just a fact of life. When we ignore this fact, we desperately cling to those little tips and tricks we talked about. The setting a timer for 5 minutes, the positive affirmations, the vision boarding. Those strategies are trying to manufacture motivation out of thin air. But the nuclear strategy is different. It recognizes the fundamental truth about human psychology. We absolutely despise being bored. Think about the irony here for a second. The reason you didn't do that work in the first place is that it felt so boring to your brain. You wanted to gouge your eyes out rather than look at that spreadsheet or that blank page. All of those distractions you have lying around. The phone, the tablet, the TV in the background. They sound so much more entertaining than doing the one important thing. So, for your brain, the logical choice is always to take the easy, high-stimulation path. But here's the trick. The solution and the problem are fundamentally the same thing. You see, we don't just dislike boredom. We hate it on a core, psychological level. Your brain is wired to seek stimulation. It needs it. It has a baseline entertainment requirement it has to meet, or it starts freaking out. The reason the important task feels boring is because you have a readily available backdoor into instant, highly processed entertainment that acts as a contrast. That is the core conflict. Why in hell would you write an essay when you could be checking Instagram or watching a new short-form video that was algorithmically engineered to hook you in the first 3 seconds? The essay will always lose that contest. The side hustle will always lose. The taxes will always lose. The problem then is not the task itself. The problem is the existence of the easy backdoors. As long as you have that escape route, as long as you know you can stop and pull out your phone or click over to a streaming site, the work you need to do will always feel agonizing. The disparity in entertainment value is just too large. This is why this strategy is nuclear. It bypasses willpower completely. We stop trying to convince ourselves that the difficult work is inherently fun. Instead, we use our own deep aversion to boredom as leverage. It's about designing an environment where your brain's natural, unstoppable desire for stimulation is forced to focus directly onto the work. You stop trying to make the work sexier. You just make everything else utterly, mind-numbingly dull. It sounds harsh, right? We don't want to believe the answer to achieving our dreams is essentially torture by boredom. We want a complex, sophisticated hack. But when we accept the simple truth, that our motivation is always a matter of relative comparison, we realize the incredible power we have over our environment. The key realization is that your brain doesn't see objective entertainment values. It's always relative. It's all about contrast. And that contrast is exactly what we're going to manipulate. Listen, using absolute boredom to crush resistance is the key, but to really make that success stick, to design a life where achievement is inevitable, you need a complete step-by-step roadmap. That's exactly what I've put together in my new ebook, 30 Days to a Better You. Inside, I give you the full 30-day system for identifying every single backdoor distraction, structuring your environment for maximum contrast, and building powerful habits that turn hard work into automatic action. Stop fighting the resistance with pure willpower. Click the link below right now to download 30 Days to a Better You and start making your best life unavoidable. We know the nuclear option is boredom, but the reason it works, and this is super important, is because your brain doesn't see objective entertainment values. It's always relative. It operates entirely on the contrast effect. A good analogy for this is just your eyesight. Think about when you're outside on a super bright, sunny day, spending hours just soaking up the light. Then, you walk into a dim room or a store. That indoor space feels impossibly dark, right? You literally can't see anything for a few minutes. You get that weird, fake sun in your periphery that starts to fade everything. It's not that the room is actually darker than it was before. It's just that your vision is suddenly calibrated to the extreme contrast of the sun. It takes time for your eyes to adjust to the lower stimulation environment. Or think about the opposite scenario. You get up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. You flip on the light, and it's blinding. It practically hurts your eyes. That bathroom light isn't any brighter than it was when you were brushing your teeth before bed. It's just that your brain interprets things using comparison. It uses contrast. The exact same phenomenon happens with your motivation and focus. Right now, your brain is calibrated to the blinding, instant dopamine of social media, gaming, or limitless streaming. That important, difficult task we keep avoiding, it's like the dim room. It feels impossibly dark, slow, and unappealing because the contrast is too sharp. The only reason the work feels agonizing is because you have easily accessible, high-contrast escape options. The key, then, is to utterly delete the backdoors. You have to strip away the blinding options so your brain has no choice but to recalibrate its entertainment meter. You need to eliminate your ability to do anything other than the thing that you need to do. I mean this literally. You need to create an environment where the only possible source of stimulation is the work itself. Sit in a blank room, no phone, no random browser tabs, nothing. You are actively eliminating your choice when the high contrast options are gone. When the bright, blinding, instantly rewarding alternatives are physically removed, the work you need to do, even if it's inherently boring, begins to look relatively brighter. It becomes the only source of stimulation available, and your brain will dive into it simply to escape the void. This is why those little tips and tricks about trying harder are doomed to fail. They are asking you to bring a tiny candle of willpower into a room flooded with sunlight. Our strategy is to remove the sunlight completely. Now, you might be thinking, oh, it's not that simple. I can just sit there and do nothing. I'll stare at the wall and successfully resist the work. But here's the fascinating, wonderful, and slightly terrifying part. You actually won't do nothing. We are fundamentally wired, biologically, to seek stimulus. The human mind is literally uncomfortable with the void. It hates feeling bored. You might think you're tough enough to withstand absolute boredom, but you'd be wrong. In fact, our collective hatred of boredom is so intense that it's been proven through genuinely weird and compelling studies. And it's even been used as one of the most severe forms of punishment imaginable. It's the psychological truth that ensures this nuclear option works every single time, and it proves that your brain will make the necessary task entertaining just so it doesn't have to face the absolute quiet. You need to see the proof of this power to really believe in this strategy. We left off on that ultimate skeptical question. Can you really force yourself to work just by deleting distractions? When faced with an empty room and a difficult task, the lazy voice in your head is whispering, nope, I'll just sit there and stare at the wall. I'm too tough for this boredom trick. Well, the scientific community has a genuinely weird, slightly uncomfortable, but ultimately validating answer for you. It's proof that your brain is simply not equipped to handle the absence of stimulation. There was this incredibly telling study published in the prestigious journal Science back in 2014, and what they found is absolutely wild. They got a bunch of undergraduate students to participate in an experiment. The setup was simple. The students had to sit in an empty room, totally alone with their thoughts, with absolutely nothing to do. They were told to simply be alone with their minds for a period of time. It sounds relaxing, right? A digital detox fantasy. But they had one other option sitting on the table, a button. If they pressed the button, they would administer a mild, non-lethal, but definitely unpleasant electric shock to themselves. The exact same shock they had received earlier to know what they were getting into. The instructions were clear. You can either sit there and think, or you can shock yourself. And here is the shocking truth. It turns out that 67% of the men and 25% of the women decided that electrocution was preferable to simple, unadulterated boredom. They chose pain over the void. Some of them, even after experiencing the discomfort, shocked themselves multiple times. Even the students who didn't press the button admitted they strongly considered it or lamented how miserable and boring the quiet time was. That is an incredible data point, isn't it? It proves just how much human beings fundamentally despise being bored. We will literally choose physical discomfort, minor pain, over being alone with a lack of stimulus. Our brain is wired to find something to engage with. It's a survival mechanism. This isn't just a quirky lab finding. We already know this instinctually from the worst parts of human history. Why is solitary confinement considered one of the least humane forms of torture imaginable? Because it weaponizes boredom against the mind. It strips the brain of the necessary contrast, the external input, and forces it to collapse in on itself. There are even ancient torture methods like the oubliette, a hole under a castle where you're just thrown down and forgotten about for life. The terror isn't primarily the cold or the darkness. It's the absolute, unending, mind-numbing boredom that eventually breaks you. So, let's bring it back to your work. If you are put in an empty room with nothing to do except one thing, and that thing is to draft your presentation, or study for your certification, or edit your video, you are going to do that thing. You will have no choice. The environmental conditioning works immediately, because the fear of boredom is a more powerful motivator than the pain of resistance. Your brain needs stimulation to function. It hates the void so much that it will make a deal with itself. It will make whatever its only option is as entertaining as it needs to be to justify the engagement. While you are doing that thing, it will feel so much more interesting, so much more engaging than doing nothing. The moment you delete the distractions, the work is no longer competing with the bright sunlight of the internet. It's competing with the complete darkness of the void. And in that scenario, the work always wins. This powerful environmental shift is the key to creating inevitable productivity and finally closing the gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it. Now, how exactly do we set up this environment in real life? That's where the rubber meets the road, now that we've seen the shocking scientific proof that your brain hates the void more than it hates hard work. We know that the heavy lifting is already done. We don't need to try and motivate ourselves, we just have to set the stage for success. We need to create an environment where the desired behavior is inevitable. So how exactly do you go about designing your environment for inevitable success? This is where you stop thinking of the solution as a mental exercise and start thinking of it as a physical engineering problem. You are now an architect of your own focus. If you have something you need to do right now, then the immediate step is to literally eliminate all your backdoors. This isn't philosophical, it's physical, and it should be immediate. Let's get specific. The phone. This is the nuclear missile of distraction. Turn it off. Don't just silence it. Power it down and put it in another room. Or better yet, Use a timed lockbox or an app that completely disables social media for a set period of time. You remove the option to choose it. The computer. If your work requires a computer, you have to surgically remove everything else. Log out of every social media account. Use a separate, minimal browser profile just for work. If you're writing, auto-hide the toolbar so when you pause to think of the next word, your eye isn't drawn to the Safari or Chrome icon, automatically clicking the back door open. The room. If you have a dedicated gaming PC, a console, or even a TV in your workspace, remove it. Physically. This isn't about deprivation. It's about engineering the contrast effect. You are constructing your life around one central question. Is the thing I'm supposed to do the most entertaining option available in this moment? The larger the disparity between the required task and your easy distractions, the more agonizing the work will feel. But the moment you delete those high-contrast distractions, the faster the work gets done. You start seeing immediate results. The beauty of this is that it works right away. It's insane. This isn't some dopamine detox you have to do over weeks and months, although that certainly helps build long-term discipline. This works right away because your brain needs stimulation now, and when the only option is the work instantly becomes the most entertaining path. Your deep-seated aversion to boredom ensures it. It will make whatever your only option is, that presentation, that coding problem, as fascinating as it needs to be to justify the energy output. But the biggest, most fulfilling takeaway isn't just about getting tasks done. It's about the quality of the life you end up living. When you live life this way, when you treat productivity as an environmental design challenge, it's not that you're going to live a less entertaining life. In fact, you might find it far more entertaining and empowering than you ever knew possible. When you stop relying on cheap, instant dopamine hits, your brain learns to find genuine, lasting entertainment value in difficult, meaningful things. You start experiencing flow states that are deeply satisfying. You're no longer fighting for scraps of motivation. You're operating with an internal engine of purpose. You remove the choice to fail, and in doing so, you gain the freedom to succeed. You're not spending your valuable energy wrestling with resistance every morning. You're simply giving your brain the right set of variables to solve. And because your brain hates boredom, it will solve them. It will create, it will focus, and it will deliver. So in summary, right now, go delete the back doors. Force the boredom. Watch as that necessary work, the thing you've been avoiding for weeks, transforms into the most interesting and fulfilling thing in the room. You have the nuclear option. Use it.